everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're literally getting a backstage pass into the operational blueprint of a massive retail giant, Five Below. If you've ever wondered, how they managed to keep their shelves absolutely packed with trend-right merchandise at those crazy low prices, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to unpack the gears of their supply chain and see exactly how they manage that massive global footprint. But before we get into the nuts and bolts, let me ask you this directly. How does a discount retailer stay responsible? Really think about it for a second. We all love a great deal, right? But balancing an extreme value retail model with vital environmental and social obligations, that's a massive challenge. When your items are priced between $1 and $5, every single penny counts. And yet that responsibility to the planet and to people still absolutely remains. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand the supply chain solutions Five Below has implemented, we first have to acknowledge the absolute reality of their business model. As they put it, quote, fast, cheap inventory is the core input. Their entire system depends on a steady, high-speed flow of low-cost on-trend inventory from their suppliers. It's a rapid turn engine. You buy cheap, sell low, and move that inventory incredibly fast to keep up with exactly what teens and families are looking for right now. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First up, the supply chain engine. Second, reducing packaging waste. Third, the packaging checklist. Fourth, vendors' social compliance. And fifth, enforcing factory standards. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the supply chain engine. To keep over 1,900 stores constantly refreshed with new items, their whole strategy relies on rapid response sourcing. This means converting viral social trends into in-store assortments in a matter of weeks rather than months. But here's the catch. Constantly moving millions of products across the globe at that speed to supply all those stores naturally requires a massive physical footprint. You're dealing with suppliers, massive distribution centers, which they call ship centers, and thousands of trucks. All of this naturally creates significant environmental and logistical hurdles that have to be actively managed. Moving right along to Section 2, reducing packaging waste. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most direct ways Five Below tackles their environmental impact within this fast-paced physical supply chain. They look really closely at the boxes and materials surrounding their products. By making smart engineering tweaks to packaging materials, they minimize waste right at the source. In 2024 alone, they reduced the amount of cardboard used by approximately 240 tons. Let's translate that bold metric into a concrete visual, because it's wild. 240 tons of cardboard saved is the equivalent of saving 4,000 trees. That's essentially leaving 20 entire acres of rainforest completely untouched, literally just by optimizing how things are boxed. Now let's connect the dots here, because smaller packaging doesn't just save paper, it actively reduces shipping needs. Think about it like a giant puzzle. When you make a package smaller, you can fit way more products into a single carton, and way more cartons into a single shipping container. By saving those 240 tons of cardboard, Five Below actually optimized their global logistics, enough to take over 100 shipping containers, which translates to 100 fewer semi-trucks right off the highway. That is a huge reduction in fuel consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Which brings us to Section 3, the packaging checklist. So how do they ensure these cardboard reductions happen consistently? Well, they follow a highly specific internal rule of three. They actively challenge themselves and their vendors at three distinct stages of a product's life cycle. First, in the design phase, they ask simple but powerful questions like, can the package be smaller? Second, in the supply chain phase, they ask, has the shipping container been maximized? And third, from the consumer perspective, they ask, is the amount of garbage minimized? And here is why this matters so much. These highly granular, checklist-driven decisions ripple out. By asking if a carton can be smaller before a product is even manufactured, they literally root their operations in sustainable practices. This creates a significantly smaller carbon footprint for the brand globally, without slowing down that rapid response sourcing engine we talked about earlier. All right, shifting gears to Section 4, vendor social compliance. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the shift from the physical boxes to the actual human beings making the products. Because Five Below relies on a low-cost global network, they place incredibly strict requirements on their vendors to ensure ethical operations. These are non-negotiable human rights standards. Vendors absolutely must treat workers with dignity and respect, provide a safe and clean environment, and pay at least the legal minimum wage with benefits. Furthermore, they strictly prohibit child and forced labor, mandate a harassment-free workplace, and totally prohibit the use of conflict minerals. They really strive to be an example of good labor practices. And finally, Section 5, enforcing factory standards. Because, let's be real for a second, A piece of paper with a list of standards means absolutely nothing without a rigorous system of enforcement and visibility on the ground. Every single import factory has to pass a strict three-step progression before Five Below even approves them. First, they require a third-party qualification audit, then a thorough social compliance self-assessment, and finally, a CTPAT security assessment. CTPAT stands for Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism, which ensures cargo security against potential threats alongside the ethical treatment of workers. Let's move to and see how this builds. To keep a watchful eye on this massive network, Five Below uses a super robust vendor management system. This tracks compliance data all the way down to the individual item SKU. If Five Below's the importer of record, they know exactly where that single item came from and the specific conditions it was made under. So the crucial point is this: a responsible supply chain is a durable supply chain. When you're a company operating thousands of stores on razor-thin margins and rapid inventory turns, any disruption is deeply felt. By actively working to reduce packaging waste and enforcing strict human rights and security standards, they aren't just checking ESG boxes. They're actively protecting their bottom line from supply shocks, mitigating risks, and ensuring the stability of their incredibly fast-paced operations. This brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with today. How do your own purchasing habits intersect with corporate supply chain accountability? When we walk into a store and grab a trendy item for just $5, it's so easy to forget the massive global engine required to put it there. Balancing extreme value with strong values, like protecting rainforests by optimizing cardboard and ensuring factory workers are treated with dignity, is a complex, ongoing operation. Understanding these backstage mechanics makes us all much more informed consumers. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.